Hi, and welcome to Day After Election 2020. I'm Chris Castillo with the Oklahoman and Oklahoman.com, and I have with me this morning Congresswoman-elect Stephanie Bice, Republican from Oklahoma City. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
How do you feel?
Excited, exhilarated, and ready to get to work.
Tell me when you knew last night. It was a very close race between you and Congresswoman Kendra Horn much of the night, but I think that as in the runoff in August, your Senate district, those are some of the last precincts to come in, and those were still not counted last night when Congresswoman Horn still had a lead. I mean, when did you feel like we've got this in the bag?
Early numbers showed that Democrats had a significant advantage in absentee and early day or early voting, but we really felt like day of, the Republicans would have an advantage, significant advantage then. And when we started seeing just slowly but surely inching away at the lead, there were several precincts, as you mentioned, mine in my Senate district, that were not reporting. But based on some of the other precincts that were in the district that had reported, that had a similar demographic, I think we knew that those last precincts were just kind of icing on the cake.
It's an interesting district. The 5th district includes most of Oklahoma County, Seminole, and Pottawatomie counties. And they came in huge for you early last night. I think, did you have like 70% in both of them? And they're more rural. I mean, besides like Shawnee, the city of Shawnee, much of Pot County is rural, Seminole County is rural.
Yeah, I don't know the specific numbers. I didn't have a chance to really look at any data last night, but I know that it is voter registration heavy on the Republican side too, and so that did make sense that you saw a pretty sizable number of votes come in for me from those two counties. And I think that Oklahoma County does have a little bit of a changing in demographics, but still there's a lot of Republicans, and you saw it in the registration numbers. And also voter turnout was really important. On our side, we were looking at what was the voter turnout going to be for the election. If you look back to the 2016 presidential election cycle, you saw huge numbers then, but there was about a 20,000 vote difference between the 16 and the 18 election. And so we figured that there was probably going to be a huge uptick again because of the presidential election cycle, those folks getting out to vote. You're
right. I mean, we talked to pollsters who said it's just a different electorate. Excuse me, far more people turn out for presidential races than midterms. And Congresswoman Horn was able to overcome those losses in Seminole and Pottawatomie County in 2018, but she didn't have enough of a margin in Oklahoma. She won by less than 1% in Oklahoma County, and that wasn't enough to overcome the rural parts of it.
Yeah, I think that, and the other thing, when Congresswoman Horn won in 2018, it was 3,300 votes, and those were all early and absentee ballot. Steve Russell actually won day of election. And so we knew that Republicans tend to want to get to the polls, even in this COVID scenario that we're working with, that they still wanted to be out casting a vote in person.
Right. So you're going to be busy the next couple months getting ready to go to Congress. It looks like the Democrats will retain control of the House. They thought they were going to pick up a bunch of seats. They are not. Apparently, they're actually going to maybe have less of a majority. But still, this will be your first time in the minority. You've been in the state Senate for 6 years almost, in a supermajority, right? Where Republicans basically they wrote everything, and it was their show. You're going up in a totally different situation. What do you expect?
I think you're right. We have been able to move forward with a lot of legislation on the Republican side, on the state side, that I think has been in the best interest of Oklahomans. But a lot of the things that I've championed have been bipartisan types of legislation. Criminal justice reform is a great example of that. I ran that with Jason Dunnington 2 years ago. And so I think that there is room for negotiation, there is room for compromise. I hope that Speaker Pelosi will not continue to be partisan, as we've seen her be with another CARES package or a relief package that needs to happen. Hopefully we'll see, now that the election is over, some coming together and trying to actually govern again.
Yeah, that was actually my next question. I mean, obviously the country is still very divided, and we're watching it right now unfold in the presidential race, in the congressional races, in your race, in this district. It's really close. I mean, you had a four percentage point difference, and difference in how the urban county voted versus the rural ones. I mean, what is your pledge to the Horn supporters about what you're going to do when you go up there?
It's the same pledge that I give the constituents that I represent currently. I'm going to listen. I'm going to take your suggestions or your input into consideration when I'm making decisions that are in the best interest of the community, the state, or this congressional district. Certainly, we may differ on how we get there, but I will continue to be an advocate for Oklahomans, and that's what I've done in the last 6 years.
I know you've been laser focused on your own race and making the rounds this morning, but do you have any reaction to President Trump's comments about they should stop counting ballots, this thing is over, I've won?
No, I haven't heard that or seen anything about that. What I focused on is really House races and seeing who I'm going to be serving with over the next couple of years. It looks like Republican women have done incredibly well. You've seen a couple of the candidates out of New York, Nicole Malliotakis and one other, I can't think of her name off the top of my head, but that have won their general elections. Yvette Harrell. I mean, there's quite a few that are coming on board, and as you probably know, there was a big, women wave back in the 2018 election cycle, and it was mainly Democrat women. And so I think there was a really big focus on let's try to find, Republican conservative women and also minorities, and it was really, really effective. Burgess Owens won his seat in Utah last night, and so you have, African American, you have women. It's going to be a much, I think, diverse freshman class than we've seen in the past.
And I've heard you talk about maybe trying to get on transportation committee. I mean, what other ones do you look at? I mean, what are you hoping to build expertise in there?
There's a couple. I have talked about transportation and infrastructure because I think that we could benefit from that, having 3 major highways coming right through the heart of this congressional district. But also energy and commerce is incredibly important. We are an energy state. We have several large energy companies located right here in the metro area, and so making sure that we're partnering with them to support our industry here is important. On the commerce side, I want to be able to help those businesses ensure that they have the support that they need, especially during this COVID time. So that would be another area that I'd like to focus on.
That used to be one of the most prestigious committees. I'm not sure anymore, how it falls, but it was one of the toughest to get onto. Last question, do you have any plans about how you're going to do town halls? I mean, or do you plan to have a very aggressive town hall schedule, the kind where you stand up and let anybody, in the district come in and ask you a question?
Haven't really thought that far ahead, to be honest. So that'll be some things that we talk through over these next couple of months. It's a short sprint to inauguration and swearing in.
But what's your philosophy about town hall meetings? I mean, do you think that you should be accessible to your constituents
Absolutely.
in that way?
But I found that accessibility actually works in different ways. As a state senator, I went to a lot of events in my district, things like community coffees or chamber events, and talked to the community to find out what's important to them. Those may be a really good way for me to connect because I see what's happening on the ground rather than just attending a town hall that maybe only certain people can attend.
Okay. Congratulations again. Thanks so much for spending the time this morning. Congresswoman-elect Stephanie Bice, Republican of Oklahoma City, will be going to Washington to represent the 5th Congressional District in January. And thanks for joining us. I'm Chris Castile with The Oklahoman and Oklahoman.com.